Greetings everybody and welcome. It's Macro Talk 2. That's what happens on Thursdays, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I can't find the thing I clean my glasses with. Why do I always leave that till the very end, I wonder? How's everybody doing today? I want to clean up a little bit of a mess from Tuesday. We had our usual macro talk and interesting feedback. A lot of people wanted less of the lecture-y stuff that they didn't understand and more of the live injuries with the spontaneously swelling arm. Those of you who weren't around on Tuesday, about 30 seconds before the beginning of the live stream, I ran into the kitchen to grab a beverage and slipped on a cube of ice that I had left there accidentally a few minutes earlier. And I landed against the fridge with my arm, and there was a poll going on apparently to see whether or not I'd show up in a cast today. Well, I actually have a cast and I was going to put it on, but ran out of time. I didn't break my arm, though it still looks pretty bad. That's what happened right before the program. So if I seemed out of sorts, it was because I was in agony. But it's better now, thank you, much better. And I'll try to avoid live injuries from now on. Welcome newcomers, those of you who are joining me for the first time today. We do this twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. We try to have fun, but also give you some useful information. That's what this is all really about. It's a macro photography thing, and I talk a lot about macro photography. And hopefully you come away from it having had a fairly decent hour or so and learned something new from it. That's the purpose. My Patreon folks, thank you very much for being you and for supporting my work. This weekend is a particularly good weekend to be a Patreon supporter because you have an invitation to Saturday's Zoom meeting. Excuse me while I lower the heat on the microphone there a bit. The Zoom meeting is a thing we do every other weekend. It's 2 hours of us on a Zoom call, which is where you get FaceTime with me. You can ask questions, we talk, I bring some stuff to talk about, and it's a pretty good time, and it's a valuable resource for people who are trying to learn macro. This weekend it's also just a really good time because I have a good friend of mine, one of the few true polymaths that I know. This guy is a professor of music. He's a composer. He's an artist, and he specializes in artificial intelligence and the interface with art, especially photographic art. And he's going to be live in the studio with me on Saturday, and he'll be talking about his vision for the future of art as it relates to artificial intelligence and all the new tech that's coming along. Dennis H. Miller is his name. Check him out on his website, Dennis H. Miller, and you'll probably want to then join Patreon so you can come listen to him talk. He's a great guy. Looking forward to having him here. One of the problems that I heard was that there was too much information on Tuesday about growing and photographing crystals. And in retrospect, yes, I probably tried to cram too much information in there, but it's all useful information. I'm gonna simplify it though, and tell you how you do it in just a couple of sentences. So if you kind of zoned out on Tuesday, listen to this. Grab a chemical that sounds interesting, something you have around the house, doesn't matter, anything. Don't pick anything poisonous. Look it up online and see what it dissolves in. Take your chemical. Let's say you take, I'm trying to think of one boric acid that I had lying around. Boric acid, it's a thing to kill roaches. Look it up online, boric acid solubility, and it'll tell you what it's soluble in. Get some of that. It'll be water or alcohol or acetone or something like that. Dissolve a little bit of the salt in the liquid, and then spread it on a glass slide and leave it alone. It'll dry, and when it dries, look at it under the microscope. And that's it. That's it, the whole thing. That whole hour of talking was to tell you that. Now, I also showed you a device that I made. and it works fine. It's a thing for polarizing the light to shoot crystals. But I want to show you the new one that I made last night. I haven't made it yet. I've designed it, and it's ready to print. In fact, it is going to the printer this afternoon. And I just wanted to show it to you so that you know that there's a better version. And if you're interested in getting one of these, let me know. I will send you the code. Let me share with you the picture real quick. That is it. That is the new one. It's much more robust. It has a slot at the bottom to put your RM75 small rig light in. It has 2 polarizers. It has a retarder, and the specimen goes in here. And that's all there is to it. Very simple, very elegant. No, that's blowing my own horn, isn't it? It looks fairly elegant, but these things turn so that you can adjust the polarization without having to fiddle around with things under the microscope. And there you go. That's all you need. And it works with cameras and lenses as well as microscopes. In fact, it works with your eye. You can look down in here and see the colors. Okay, so that was that out of the way. See, I could have done Tuesday's entire live stream in a minute and a half. That's it. That's everything that I had, unless there's any questions that anybody has from last time. And we're going to move on to today's interesting topic. Many of you know I just got back from a trip, not a relaxing trip, but a trip to Scotland and Iceland. It was mostly Scotland. It was just a protracted layover, really, in Iceland. But it was long enough to get out and see some of the sights. I have not had a chance to process the images that I took. But what I did was, as I mentioned in the video before I left, I planned to take the whole period with no camera, just with a cell phone as my only camera for the whole time I was gone. So all my travel, Scotland and Iceland, just with a cell phone. And it was for several reasons. Mainly, I didn't want to carry my lovely camera on the aeroplane and have them toss it in a hold somewhere and break it. So I just decided to go with my cell phone. And I have an iPhone something or other. I think it's a 12. It's very nice. It's got 3 cameras on the back, or 3 lenses anyway. 3 cameras, yeah. And it does all kinds of things. Now, let me preface everything I'm going to say about cell phone photography with this. I don't think I'm a very good cell phone photographer, because I have a friend who is absolutely fantastic with the cell phone, Mike Canfer, one of the channel's supporters for a long time. And Mike uses a cell phone like nobody else I've ever seen. And a lot of you are capable of doing that. A lot of you do that. I don't. For some reason, my cell phone pictures aren't very good. Let's also consider the fact that I am a macro photographer. It's what I do for a living. So I'm used to using cameras. And I think in terms of cameras. I compose shots thinking of cameras. And another thing, I am actually in the process of moving towards starting a whole new episode in my macro career in shooting medium format macro. And this is going to be a big departure from everything that I do now, and it's going to move things into a very rarefied area of photography. High magnification macro with medium format equipment is not something that is commonly done. And there are a lot of reasons for that, but the things will overcome. So my mind is moving towards larger sensors, not smaller sensors. So it makes me rather acutely conscious of the shortcomings of cell phone photography. So that is the context in which you need to interpret anything I say. If I sound like I'm just being negative about cell phone photography, I'm going to try not to be, but if I sound that way, that's where it's coming from. It is the furthest thing from the way I normally do photography. But having said that, I was delighted with a lot of the photographs, and I think what we'll do is we'll actually talk about this issue in the context of the photographs that I took. Now, I can't obviously show you all of them because I took hundreds, and you wouldn't want to see them anyway. But some of them are nice. I'm going to interrupt myself because I set up a camera to show you one thing that I want you to see. This is my back table here. These are my terraria. You haven't seen them in a long time because I ignored them completely when I was out the country, and they both came back to life. Look at them, they're full of grass. Just by not taking the lid off and letting them do their own thing, they've come back to life. I just wanted to show you that because some of you were a bit bashing on me about how I'd managed to kill a terrarium. But anyway, there you go. That's that. Let me get then to the business at hand, which is going to be Scotland. And I couldn't figure out a better way to do it than to just share my screen and go through the pictures in the iPhone app on the Pictures app, I think it's called, on the computer. I was going to put them into Lightroom, but I didn't do that. So I'm going to show you the pictures that were successful and the ones that weren't as I'm talking about the contrast between using a camera and using a cell phone. And before anybody tells me my sound is only coming from one channel, I just noticed that, and I'm going to fix it right now. So that should have taken care of that. Sorry about that. All right, so let's begin at the beginning. That's actually a video right there. We don't want to show a video. Let's open up one of these pictures. So the things I love about using a cell phone on a trip like this is the cell phone is portable. It's tiny. It fits in my pocket. Wherever I go, I've got the little cell phone ready to roll at a moment's notice. And when I stop and see something, I just pull it out and take a picture. It connects wirelessly when you're in an area that has wireless. I can guarantee you that this particular part of Scotland did not have much wireless going on. And it's very versatile in that you can pull it out in a dark pub at night and snap pictures and they'll be fine. Or you can have it out on a bright sunny day like this, pointed at the sun, and still get good pictures. It's got a lot of computing power in it, and that is pretty impressive. Let me see. These pictures were all just point at the horizon and shoot. That's all I did. I didn't try to fiddle with the settings or anything. And some of these pictures really came out quite well. One thing that they don't really do is give you much of an idea of the elevation. I'm actually at the top of a steep hill. This is a steep hill down to that lake, and these are very big mountains for Scotland. This gives you a better idea when I'm a little bit up closer now. All I've done with these pictures is in post, which is in the Photos app, I have enhanced some of them, not all of them, just to improve the sky a little bit. And like I'm sure you're probably thinking, this is not a very good picture. The sky is overpowering the land, and that's kind of why I'm showing it. That would never happen if we were using a camera to take this picture, because we'd shoot to expose this foreground, and then we'd deal with the sky afterwards, or we'd shoot a bracketed set of exposures, so that we could have a bright foreground and a slightly less assertive background. You can't do that, or at least I can't do that with a cell phone. So you have to really point your camera to the ideal view that is going to allow the camera, which has a much narrower, what am I trying to say, a much narrower dynamic range, to fit everything into that dynamic range, so you get nice textured pictures. With your camera I don't even think about dynamic range. I just shoot as many images to capture all of the range that I'm presented with by nature. And but again, it's all a matter of picking the photograph. Some of these came out quite nicely, and I think they show the nature of the scenery that I was looking at. Something that happens over and over again is my sky gets completely blown out, and again, it's just a matter of the dynamic range. At the end of the day, any of these pictures, we'll try to pick one that's good. That's not good, but I'm going to be coming back to it to show you why. But you pick any of these pictures and you zoom in on it, and very quickly it degrades because you're dealing with a camera that has a sensor the size of your pinky nail that has it may have God knows how many megapixels crammed onto that sensor, but the sensor is usually a stacked sensor. So you have very, very tiny photo sites. The result is you don't get a lot of detail, you don't get a lot of resolution in your images, and all you have to do is zoom in a little bit and you start to see what I'm talking about. It just begins to fall apart. And that's a big problem for me. I like to have pictures that I can get right in there and have a good close look. Let's look at one of these rocks down here. Not too terribly bad, but still not the kind of detail you would expect to see with your DSLR or your mirrorless. There's no doubt about it that the feature of your camera that allows you to take high resolution pictures that are rich and textured and full of detail that you can zoom right in on in your editing is the fact that it has a large sensor with large photo sites. That's all there is to it. Think of it this way: your sensor on your camera consists of rows and rows of buckets for collecting photons, and the buckets are big. So if you have the bucket is half full, then you have a massive range either side of half full where that particular photo site will be stimulated more or less. It gives you more colors and more points of differentiation. In other words, the picture has more resolution. When your photo site is so small that, say, for example, it could only hold 10 photons, then you only have 10 gradations of light to dark in there. Whereas with a gigantic photo site, like you'd have on a full-frame camera, you have hundreds or thousands or millions. That's the point I'm trying to make. And when you're dealing with such a limited ability to resolve the image, you need to shoot for things that are going to give you that kind of resolution, at least at the full image size like this. Okay, you've very limited control, by the way, with a cell phone. You can't. I picked these pictures here of this castle because the sky kept changing. The castle was gloomy looking in most of the shots, but interesting enough that I wanted to make it the star of the show. Very hard to do with a cell phone. You can't change the aperture, you can't change the shutter speed, you can't change the ISO, and it's hard to be creative with the phone. You have to be creative with where you put the phone. And that's what I did. I tried to take as decent a picture of this castle as I could, and I tried everything I could think of without being able to actually change the settings in the camera. And you also have very limited or no ability to change the optics of your cell phone. Now, that's not true. You can add on lenses, I guess, clip-on lenses. I didn't have any with me, so you're limited to use the lens that the cell phone gives you, which means I couldn't zoom in on this castle. I couldn't get a wider shot of the castle unless I just walked. and you can only walk so far into the moat before you start to sink into the muck out there. So getting shots that were interesting without cropping them became very challenging for me. Whereas with a camera, I would have set my tripod up in one spot that I really loved and would have done everything from there to build the shot that I really was trying to get. None of these are terrible, and they're not half bad considering how long it took to do them, but none of them are great, or even that good actually. So let's talk about the specific drawbacks then of the cell phone, where it limits you. The reduced gathering of light that I talked about because of the photo sites means that your dynamic range is limited, and it means that getting this area bright, the sky a little darker, and your foreground balanced, you're not going to be able to do it without stacking shots, which you can't do, or bracketing shots, which you can't do with a cell phone. So it's a real difficulty when you have such reduced light gathering capabilities. We've talked about the dynamic range, but there's also a decreased decreased signal to noise ratio with the cell phone sensor, with the very small stacked sensors. It means that when the photo sites are small and packed very close together on the sensor, you get a much higher incidence of interference and less signal, more noise, less signal, and that just degrades the quality of the image. And it's just because of the way these things work. That's why people spend a fortune on gigantic sensor cameras, because they don't have any of these problems. Cell phones also have a shallow depth of field. Now, I was trying to shoot some of this mixed lichen seaweed stuff that was growing on the rocks that I had to climb over to shoot the castle. And I was not really happy with the quality of these close-up images. I think I was a bit too close. I didn't have a macro type lens. And getting in focus was a problem. And there's a lot of areas where the light colors were blown out. Couldn't figure out how to do it. I did the where you tap on the screen and hold it, and that kind of sets your exposure for that, and then you can move the camera around and choose a better framing to limit some of this. I just wasn't getting any good shots. So I tried something creative just to try to get some of these seaweed covered rocks in front of the castle, yet showing the castle to full effect with the mountains behind it. I had a choice. I could get castle, or I could get seaweed, but I couldn't get castle and seaweed because cell phone. Now, I suppose I could stack these two in post. I don't think I'd line them up because I was hand holding the camera, but you see the problem. Something that would take you just 2 shots with the regular camera to get all of that, you have to choose. Not a big problem. You just have to have the right mindset for it. And there's another one with castle but no seaweed. I continued to try to do macro the whole time I was gone. Every time I saw something interesting, I would get as close as I could, use the macro lens and snap a few pictures. And I don't know if you can appreciate that the kind of digital look that the detail has. You go in a little bit further and you can see how it's not sharp. That's really what the problem is. Even the sharp areas are not sharp. Now, I have asked my friend Mike to explain this to me, how he manages to get everything sharp in his pictures. And I still don't understand, what it is I'm doing wrong. Maybe I need to put this thing on a tripod. But that fuzzy appearance, it shows up in all of my cell phone shots, and that's probably the main reason I'm not crazy about it. Anyway, here are a couple of slightly more successful pictures where I actually laid down on the ground and held the cell phone very, very still. But by the way, another problem that I have with cell phones, and I'm sure you've experienced this, is when you're shooting as many pictures as I was on this particular afternoon, even though it was frigid outside, freezing cold, my phone was overheating. And it was getting very, very hot to the touch after about 100 photographs. This is a slightly more successful picture of the lichen, and still a lot of detail lost in the highlights. Don't know how to prevent that. I'm not going to be able to read your comments while I'm talking, but I definitely will be reading them afterwards. So if you're thinking that, yeah, there's some stuff I could do that would improve this, do let me know. I mean, I'm not pretending to be an expert at this. A couple of nicer pictures, I think, when I moved to the other side and the light was a bit more favorable. And then bringing some color in at the front helped as well. But by and large, this is pretty typical of the kind of landscape picture I was getting. A bit flat and a bit boring. So let me talk for a minute about the specific mechanical things in cell phone cameras that are problematic. One is the aperture. It is part of a camera that we become so comfortable using, especially in macro. I'm going to pause on this picture because I want to tell you about it, but you're so used to thinking about aperture in terms of the way that you're going to limit diffraction, the way you're going to avoid aberration in your image, the way that you're going to control the light. Everything revolves around aperture, yet in the cell phone you don't have any control over the aperture. It's an electronic aperture that is actually a magnetic device that decides for you how much light gets in. The result is you don't really have any control over your depth of field, which means if you want to shoot a sharp foreground, an in-focus foreground, say of a person, and have a nice soft bokeh background, you can't do it. And because of the way that the aperture is designed in these things to basically be a jack of all trades, it makes it impossible to override it and get the creative shot that you would have no trouble at all doing with the camera. This is a waterfall, and what's interesting about it is the water is falling up. I'm not kidding. And the reason is this place is so freaking cold and windy that, first of all, you can't stand out there more than about 3 or 4 minutes. But this water is coming from a little lake over to the left. It comes over the top here, gets about to there and starts blowing back up again. It's just howling. It's called, what's the place called? It's got a name. Portree Culnacrook. And yeah, it's where the water falls uphill. And yeah, you go and you have a very quick look at it and then run back to the bus before you get hypothermia. That's the other side of the bluff, where I guess the water falls downhill over there. This is kind of like the Giant's Causeway, by the way. This is all basalt and some very odd rock formations that nobody's ever been able to see because they freeze to death before they get down there. Just avoid this part of Scotland if I was you. It's on the Isle of Skye, just in case you're wondering. This is it's actually I enjoyed this part of the visit a great deal. This is a monument to the commandos that were trained actually right in this area, in these hills, during World War II. And you know, this is the special forces guys that did all the impossible missions during the Second World War, and they all trained right here on a piece of land, I understand, owned by Ian Fleming at one point. But this was a gorgeous early afternoon, and the light kept changing. I think that this is a nice picture of the monument, but you can see how the highlights in the clouds are blown out. I took a few more pictures pointing in other directions, and again, there's so much in this that would have made a nice picture were I able to bring up these snowy mountains, drop these white clouds a little bit, brighten up some of the green down here. There's a lot you could have done with this. Now, this is a raw image. I did shoot in RAW the whole time, so I can take that into Lightroom and fiddle around with it, but you're still dealing with a native compression that is higher than you're going to be able to use like you could if you were shooting a RAW image from a big sensor. The aperture I was mentioning, and I pointed out that you have difficulty separating foreground and background elements, getting bokeh, that type of thing. You also have less light getting through because it's a tiny aperture, and they're not really very efficient in letting light through. So you get a potential loss of brightness, and I think that's some of what we're seeing in here. You just aren't getting quite as much light where you want it, and you're getting the highlights are still getting through from the burned out spots, but where you want to just gather more light, you don't have enough physical space with the aperture. And I talked about the bokeh and how hard it is to get. It's hard to get beautiful bokeh with a camera. It's just impossible with a cell phone, at least it is for me. Everything is generally most of the way in focus. This is a waterfall and with a house right by it, again up near Skye, a beautiful little spot. And I'm showing this just to show you how it deals with moving water. Now, I'm not a big fan of long exposures of waterfalls, but when I saw this, I thought, boy, that would be a cool shot from up on this bridge. But of course, you can't do that. You can't really do a long exposure, or I can't. If there may be a way to do it with the cell phone. It's snap and you're gone. But it was a pretty place, and I want this house very badly. I would like to live there. It's a very, very beautiful spot. I decided to try a little. That's looking down the other direction. I tried to do a little bit of creative macro because I saw some balls of moss, lovely lichen and stuff on the rocks, but I saw a ball of moss on a branch sticking out with the waterfall behind it. So I was trying to get a sharp picture of the moss, properly lit by the sun. I wasn't using any other light, with the water behind it just forming a backdrop, and I couldn't do it. Every time I did, the camera would soften the foreground and try to sharpen the background, and I couldn't. Even though I was forcing the camera to focus on this, it was softening this in the processor. This is a little bit further back. You can see it is actually quite sharp, but not when I moved the camera in closer. So just a bit disappointing. Details blown out of the water back there as well. But this is Edinburgh Castle. This is an unusual view of it from the north side of the north side of the Royal Mile. This is looking back up at the back of the castle, not what you'd normally see if you were down in the Straw Market area. Not Straw Market, Haymarket. There you go. That's what I was trying to say. Isn't that a cool flower arrangement? It's actually growing up the church, which is not a church anymore. All their churches have been taken over by civic groups who have other things they do with them. This one worked out quite nicely. I was thinking that the geometry of it would be all screwed up because of obviously I didn't have a tilt shift lens or anything like that. But I think this came out quite nice. It really feels like you are underneath the castle, which you very much are. That is a steep hill up there, more like a sheer cliff. Okay, so that looks like it was the last one that I went through, but I'm going to go back to the rest of them. I don't know how I'm going to do that. Let me figure that out for just a second. Let me talk briefly while I'm getting the pictures back going about the other issues with the really small aperture. You have essentially no control over diffraction. You cannot open up the aperture to avoid diffraction when you're in a diffraction prone shot. You're just going to have to live with what you get, and that's a problem with a very, very small aperture to start with. Diffraction becomes a real issue. So let me get back to where I was. The next few pictures are all from Edinburgh, and I'm going to run through them just as I talk. I hope this is not distracting to have these pictures up, but I did want to show them to you anyway. I went to this restaurant. It's absolutely gorgeous place. It was where I met my brothers, and the inside of the place was lovely, absolutely lovely. And it had a view through one window, the window we were sitting at, that just looked out over Princes Street to the north. I'm not sure if this is the Scotsman building, the newspaper, or if it's one of the big hotels. It might be one of the big hotels. But I just thought this window really worked, and I wanted to photograph it, just the window. So I did actually. Where is it? Hang on, I'm clicking on the wrong computer. That'll definitely not work. So just trying to crop out the restaurant itself and have the lights in front of the buildings. It didn't work out very well. I'd love to have had a big tall tripod and got a much flatter shot of that, but it is an interesting look. Edinburgh is probably the most interesting and photogenic city to walk around with a camera, in my opinion, in the world. I just love the place. There's really not a street corner you can stand on and not have a nice shot from. You've probably seen hundreds of pictures of Edinburgh where you can see the castle at sunset. They're almost all shot from right up here, from this little gazebo thing that the Romans built. But yeah, that's a very, very lovely spot to take landscape pictures of Edinburgh. Just mentioned that. This was shot actually using the zoom on the phone. I was a long way away from this, and it actually worked out quite well. You can see a lot of detail. There's a monument to the Scott Monument, I think it is, Walter Scott or something like that, can't remember. It's on Princes Street in Edinburgh, and I chose this to photograph because it is so difficult to photograph. Oh, hang on, this is a video. Let me show you the whole thing. Yeah, there you go. It's very tall. I was very close to it, and you can see the challenge in getting a picture of that is going to be that it's hard to get the whole thing in, and it's hard to get any detail in this against the bright sky in the background. A real challenge for a camera, and definitely for the phone. But I think I got a couple of decent pictures where I used the spot exposure on the camera. You put a finger on what you want to hold the exposure on, and just hold your finger there, and it exposes that piece of foreground, and then exposes everything behind it accordingly. A couple of them came out fairly decent. This is nice with the clock tower in the background. But this is more typically what happens when I'm using the cell phone, is everything gets washed out by a bright sky. That's Edinburgh Castle in the background, the Royal, the National Portrait Gallery, but you can't really even see it. And this is way down there. This is a big valley, but it's kind of flattened out a little bit by the picture. You see it a bit better there. This is the Royal Mile behind these buildings that goes all the way up to the castle on the hill. That's the Scotsman. This is Waverley Station that cuts Edinburgh in half, and yeah, you can't really make out too much. You're going to be seeing some of the bad pictures too because of the fact that I hadn't sorted these ones out yet. I kept moving further and further back to try and get it in the frame until I ran out of room and hit the trees. So Edinburgh Castle from down below, lots of pictures like that, and a few more efforts at close-up. This is actually fairly successful for a close-up shot in that there's a fair amount of sharpness in here, and I was quite pleasantly surprised to see this. I haven't enhanced this. I wonder what would happen if I did. Nothing. Looks about the same, doesn't it? Anyway, that's quite a good one. I was happy with that. All right, there's a ding dong, meaning I've done something wrong. Let me see what it is. That's a message usually from my guys in Telegram. Oh, Alan has just given me another good reason for my phobia of cell phones, and now I only had a bomb disposal reason. Okay, you bet. No problem, Russ. Oh, a super chat from Patrick. Patrick, I'm so glad to see you here. Thank you so much, sir. You're setting a wonderful example. No accidents tonight. No accidents tonight. I've limited myself to just sitting in the chair, and it's harder for me to have an accident sitting in the chair. I think I got all the comments there. Good. Let's get back to the pictures. We've got a few more minutes. I do want to talk about the potential reliability issues that come from having an electronic aperture. These things are prone to failure, and I don't know if you've ever had a camera phone in your cell phone to go out, but that's usually what it is. Well, excuse me, I'm pressing the wrong buttons again. Okay, now here's a wonky picture because I had the camera at an angle, but this is an awful colored looking fountain, but it's right at the base of the castle. This is from the far, let me see, east or west. Yeah, it's off the west end. The Royal Mile runs away from us down the hill, and this is the end of the castle, looking out over the countryside. I think I got some better ones, but they all make the fountain look green and awful. So I don't know what that fountain's supposed to be commemorating, but it's pretty hideous. One of the problems I have with using the iPhone for still life is this kind of posterization of color. It's very hard to get natural looking colors, at least right out of the phone. I haven't enhanced this. Let's see if that makes it any better. But these colors look oversaturated to me right out of the phone. And that's with a raw image, so they really shouldn't look that way. But yeah, I'd have to talk to somebody who knows more about it than I do to understand why a raw image would have oversaturated colors like this. But moving on, that's a lot closer to the foot of the mountain. This is wire mesh that they staple to the side of the mountain so the rocks won't kill that fountain, I guess. But that is almost sheer. So it does give you a good perspective, I must say. It would be hard to get that with a camera. Let's talk a second about the electronic shutter. We've talked about the aperture. The big problem, of course, with the phone shutter is the problem of rolling shutter and all of the other things that go with a non-camera shutter, like the incompatibility with flash. Though there are some flash, I think that who makes Profoto, makes an iPhone flash device. Several people actually make an iPhone flash, but I've never tried to use one myself. But there's certainly limited compatibility with most brands of flash. That's a church down at the bottom behind the castle. And I took a picture of this because I wanted to take a picture of the tree in the graveyard. Look at this thing. I've never seen such weird branches, and I couldn't photograph them against this light cloudy sky. It just would silhouette the thing down. It needed some, this is exactly when it needed some fill flash so that I could see what was going on. I went to the other side and got a slightly better look at it. I've never seen this before. This is one branch just going around in circles. Very bizarre. These are dead people in the ground with a view of the castle behind. They're trying to get a more atmospheric shot, and I think that worked pretty well. This is one of the shots I was happy with from the thing. This is one of the shots I was very disappointed in, because this is one of my favourite spots in Edinburgh. It's a little village down at the Forth River, and this is the railway bridge that crosses the Forth River as it empties into the North Sea. And this is probably the most over-engineered bridge in the whole world. It was built some months after there was a horrible catastrophe in Great Britain when a box girder bridge collapsed, and it resulted in loss of life, and there were several of these things that subsequently fell apart. So they built this thing so that it could never fall apart, and this thing is the most over-engineered bridge in the world, probably. Just has a train going over is all that goes over it, and then another one comes back underneath. But that's it. It doesn't even have a road on it. But this thing is not falling down anytime soon. The thing is, it's red, and I just can't get it to look the way it does. It's really, really red. And because of, I don't know why, that's the road bridge there. I tried backing off and getting more context, and I just couldn't get the thing to look as red as it is. Maybe I could enhance some color back into that. Let me try that. I'm admitting freely that my lack of experience with cell phones as a means of gathering images is a big part of the problem. And I know that's a bit better. But I know that some of you are masters of it, and maybe that's something I should learn. Wonderful structure, that. One thing that definitely was a problem was shooting at night when there were lights. I could not get these lights to look good at all. They were changing color. And this is just an alley. This is my brother's pub right in here, right through those lights there. So we were down there, and this is up in Perth, by the way, about right at the beginning of the Highlands, north of Edinburgh. And this was a lovely little alley, and I just could not get a single decent shot of it. I tried and tried and tried. That was Laura you just missed walking down there. And there you go, just blurry mess every time I shot them. Blame me. If I'd had a camera, though, I could have got a nice sharp picture of that in that alley. That's my feet, for some reason. A picture of them accidentally taken. Oh, that's my... let's do the family thing. This muscle person is my brother's... hang on, let me get this right. It's my brother's daughter's daughter. What's that, a grandnephew or something? Somebody will have to tell me. She's lovely. Here is another attempt at macro. I'm in now my parents' village over on the east coast of Scotland. Ran over there on the train one day just for old times. And this is a shot of a bee. Where's the bee, you say? Damned if I know, say I. It's in there somewhere. There he is. Not as bad as I would have feared. But this is, of course, with no macro lens on it, but also not very good. I haven't tried to enhance any of these. I'm actually going to take some of these over into Lightroom and Photoshop, see if I can salvage something from them. But really, the darks are too dark, and you just don't have, I think, the resolution. Some of the nicest pictures came, we've only got a few more minutes, but I do want to run through these. Some of the nicest pictures came when I went out to the coast. This is where my mum and dad are from, over in North Berwick, a little village just at the mouth of the Forth River on the North Sea. And it's a gorgeous spot. It's a very popular holiday spot. and the colors and everything were vibrant because it was just one of those perfect days with lovely light. Even though there wasn't much cloud, everything looked colorful. So I just snapped everything I could, including my wrist there. And what's the line for, you say? Lobster. They were selling lobster here. We didn't stand in line, but lots of detail here, I must say. I'm pretty impressed with how that looks. When you have natural contrast from the light like this, it tends to capture a better picture, and you can zoom in quite a bit closer without running into problems. But yeah, I love the docks. I mean, it's just such an interesting world. This, if you ever think, oh gosh, I'd love to move to Scotland, it sounds like such a civilized place. Think again, this is the swimming pool in North Berwick. And if it looks just like a brick wall with some of the sea in it, that's what it is. But they call it the swimming pool. They probably charge you to go in it, I don't know. This is Bass Rock. My mum and dad's house is there, or close to it. No, it's not. It's actually there. So it's a lovely, lovely spot. Anybody who's ever been to St Andrews, it's right there in Fife, over there. Lovely. Love the skies in these pictures. So it really, this significantly bashed my argument against cell phones, because these pictures were nice, and I really have enjoyed looking at them. That's the whole of the front, and that, again, I don't know what that is. All of a sudden, we're on the moon. Now, what has happened to be taking pictures on the moon? Well, we're in Iceland now. And yeah, this is what all of Iceland looks like. It looks almost warm there, though, doesn't it? It's not. It's not warm there at all. It's, I don't know, 40 degrees below absolute zero. It's howling wind, smells like sulfur, and it's freezing cold. And it's the most expensive place on the planet. They don't have any. They don't have a single water heating plant in all of Iceland. The guy told me. Every drop of water, hot water, that you encounter, whether it's for driving turbines or taking a shower or washing the dishes, every single bit of it comes out of the ground, which explains why every single bit of Iceland smells like sulfur. Which, if you've ever smelled sulfur dioxide, it's an unlovely smell. So let's talk for a second as I go quickly through these pictures of the moon, because that's really what this felt like. What are our options if carrying the Z9 with you and a 24 to 70 is just impractical, as it would have been for me on this trip? These are where they pump the water out of the ground. It just comes out of the ground. They don't have to pump it. They pump it up into tanks where it stays until people need it. It stays hot too. This place has got volcanoes every 15 feet and adds to the lovely smell. More of these big water pumping plants. So you can't take your Z9 and your gigantic lenses, but you really want to get better pictures than I'm showing you here. What can you do? Well, you need something that is going to let you change the lens, but still be portable. You're going to still want something that has an advanced autofocus system so that you can override it and you can do the creative stuff that you would normally do with a camera that you can focus. You focus on the things you want to focus on, or you bracket. You need something that has some kind of image stabilization, and that is something that the phones don't have, but they do have something similar, but not like in your camera. So what is the solution? Well, obviously, I'm talking about hybrid type cameras, the point and shoots, some of which have interchangeable lenses. And there's a whole raft of different kinds of... Look at these terrible pictures. The bus was moving and I was shivering, was what it was. That's a lighthouse. though, they needn't have bothered with the lighthouse, because nobody would ever sail there if they knew what it was like, except the guy that found the place in the first place. And he died about a minute after landing on Iceland because it was so cold. But that is a pretty lighthouse at the top of a hill. Yep, took lots of pictures of it because we were still for a minute. Oh yeah, this was when we were on our way up to actually investigate one of these bubbling mud pits that they have. It's a big tourist attraction. Yeah, I didn't understand that either. But yeah, it's that place where the water falls uphill in Scotland. That place is amateur compared to this particular spot of the Iceland coast. The wind is howling out here, and it is twice as cold. I'm not even going to just look at it. It's barren. This is the beach where you go to sunbathe if you went to Iceland. So you want something in your camera that's going to give you some connectivity like you have with your phone now, but you want a better camera than the phone. How about video? You want to shoot 4K video. If you're going to shoot video clips, you want to at least be able to shoot, very, very nice ones. And you want something with battery life. So look at that. Isn't that just, it makes you want to go there and put your parasol out, and you'd sunbathe about 10 seconds, I think, before you're in the hospital with hypothermia. The other thing is a camera needs to have controls that you can customize, things that you can set up to have the thing act predictably to do what you need to do to capture the images you want. So what cameras fit those criteria? And I kind of looked through all the stuff that's out there right now, and kind of picked one from each of the brands that I think would be the best for getting one of these. Oh, I wanted to talk about this picture. I will in just a second. Let me tell you about the first hybrid camera that I'd probably recommend. Is the Sony Alpha, the Alpha A7 Mark III or A7 III. It's a full frame camera, but it's really compact and lightweight, and a friend of mine just bought one. It has image stabilization to beat the band. It's got probably the best autofocus in the business, and it's excellent in low light. So that is the kind of camera that is small enough and compact enough yet fully functional that you could take instead of a cell phone. Before we get to the next one, I'll explain this. This is a statue, not a statue, a monument. It's at the airport in Reykjavik. And it supposedly depicts an eagle coming out of an egg. Right, that's what I thought. It didn't look like that to me either. And it was on a pile of rocks. But when I photographed it, it had cars and aeroplanes behind it, and it looked pretty boring. So I just brought it out and stuck it on this cold, freezing spot on the coast, and made a title out of it. But that's where I put it there. More interesting. This, by the way, is where the two tectonic plates, the one that formed Australia and one that formed South America, where they butted together and the two edges came up out of the ground, that's Iceland. And this is that spot. He was pointing at it. I wasn't getting any closer to it because it was even colder as you got closer to the edge. So you just have to take my word for it. This is Australia and South America, where the tail end of where they butt together. There you go. That's your geology lesson for the year. And these are just other shots of it. Yeah, you can see the sea is not very calm. The second camera is a Fujifilm X-T4. I have an X-T2. I love it. One of my best friends has an X-T4. It's smaller. It's an APS-C mirrorless camera. They're not expensive. It's kind of retro looking, the design is, but it's got a fantastic autofocus, great image stabilization, records 4K video, and it's great for anything you'd want to do on holiday. I wish I had it for some of these pictures, though. Honestly, I was through with taking pictures of Iceland after this first stop. Here's the bubbling pool of mud. Yeah, You should smell this cloud. You'll never forget it. Panasonic makes a camera called the Lumix GH5. Yeah, that's an even smaller sensor, a micro four thirds, but it's way more capable than the phone, in my opinion. I have used one of these, and it also does 4K video, got high frame rates, and all the bells and whistles and controls a pro camera has. So it's really nice, and it's weather sealed, which would have been super handy on the rainy days when I was traveling. Yeah, how many pictures of steam coming out of a bubbling thing of mud in the ground can you take? I took this for my son because he's a Joe, and this is the most expensive coffee shop in the universe, including places like the Sun that are even less expensive than this. I took a picture of a table because I'm going to try to build one of these, because this is the perfect macro table for all your work. The last camera, and it's going to take me up to the top of the hour, is the Canon EOS RP. It's a compact, affordable, full-frame mirrorless camera that has fantastic image quality. It's got the dual pixel CMOS autofocus that's so fast and accurate. And it's compatible with any Canon lenses. So if you're a Canon shooter, that is a great choice. Put a Pancake 50 on it and you're set for your holidays. You could have taken wonderful pictures of this table. I took lots of pictures of the table because it meant I didn't have to go back outside into the cold. I took some pictures of boats too. And these actually came out, some of them came out quite well. These were the last shots that I took with the cell phone, or almost the last. So that's it, guys. That was my holiday. I did get through Iceland. I was a little bit surprised. I thought that I'd only get to Scotland, but I had a wonderful time. It was a great break. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great seeing everything, and great being back home again, seeing my family, and getting to see parts of Scotland that I haven't seen since I was a boy. And that was nice. I'm not going to do it again with a cell phone unless I take a really nice selection of, say, moment lenses or something to expand the capability, but I probably won't. I'll probably use a small compact camera. Maybe my XT2 will come with me next time. I think I hindered myself by not having a camera. I don't hate my cell phone camera. I use it every week. Every video I have ever made has got at least one image that was taken on the cell phone. Many of them have dozens. It's quick and easy, and it takes perfectly good photographs under controlled situations. It's not a landscape camera. It's not a portrait camera. It's a snapshot camera. And if snapshots are all you're looking for, then I think you'll be perfectly happy with whatever cell phone you have. And I understand they're getting better and better, and a lot of the things I've talked about, like the shutter issues, are probably going to go away in time. I think cell phone cameras are getting more and more like cameras. But until they have interchangeable lenses and all of the other bells and whistles that I rely on when I take pictures, I think I'm going to stick with a camera. What do you think? It's too late to tell me, but what do you think about it? What do you think? Are you gonna try to find a camera to take with you on your next holiday, or are you gonna go with a cell phone? Let me know. How's everybody doing? Is anybody still awake? I should read the comments. It's usually depressing when I do that, but I will read them anyway. Let me see. Where are they? Oh, they would be under that little thing. Okay. Yes, we appear to have lost the stream. I don't have the messages are not showing. I just noticed. Sorry, guys. I've been talking for 10 minutes. That's the microphone thing that has been plaguing me these last few live streams. I'm going to say what I said. Thank you. Let me know whether or not anything I've said is going to impact what you plan to do, as far as whether or not you're going to take a cell phone with you on your holidays next time. I hope you heard my recommendations for cameras, because I thought long and hard about this. Sony A7 III for full frame, the Fujifilm X-T4 for APS-C, the Panasonic Lumix GH5 for micro four thirds, and probably the best all-around choice is the Canon EOS RP, which takes all the regular Canon lenses and is a full-frame camera, and it's gorgeous and compact, and it does everything. I'm probably going to take my XT2 next time I go to Iceland, which is going to be never. But next time I go to Scotland, I'll probably take my good camera, because there's too much stuff there that I want to photograph. Then I went on to say hi to everybody that I could on the list, particularly, let me see. Michelle wants to... okay, all right. No problem, Michelle. Thanks for coming. I said hi to you. I'll say hi again. Let me see who else. Pierre is here. Greetings, my friend. Art. The sound is back. Yes, it was because of your message that I saw it was off. I'm sorry. It's the microphone gremlins are at it again. But Art, I'll see you on Saturday when you're going to be there for Dennis. And Joseph, Zeno, Senpai Sky. He can't see it. That's me. I can't see whatever it was you were pointing at. It was the sound going off. Lost sound. Russ shouted it at me, and I still didn't hear it. That was when I turned off the. It's when I turned off the microphone, because it was single channel. That was why you couldn't hear me. Larry, the Z50, the Z30 would work for Nikon users. Yes, they would. Indeed, they would. And I didn't mention them. Mainly because I talk about Nikon non-stop, and I was trying to come up with some popular alternatives. But Larry, you're absolutely right. A Z50 would be lovely. I know lots of people who've got them, and if I'd had one, that would have gone with me. Let me see. David Brown, how's everything up in Maine, David? I hope it's getting springtimey up there. And Russ, thanks for everything. Patrick, thank you, sir, for the very kind super chat, as always. And I think I've covered everybody. Iceland has summer averaging 50 to 55 degrees. No, that's 50 to 55 degrees below absolute zero. I think you misread it in the almanac. It's cold. It's cold. Lance was here. Crispy B was here. Just Me was here from Transylvania. How's it going, Just Me? You need to get in touch. We need to chat, catch up. Nick, welcome. Wonder if the portrait mode would work. Don't know, didn't try it, didn't even know it had it until later. But yeah, bad preparation on my part. And that is about everybody, I think. If I forgot you or didn't get to you. John D, good to see you again, sir. Glad you made it. And don't forget to come Saturday. That's going to be a lot of fun. I think we have got everything covered. And Michelle had to leave. I need a new cell phone. That I don't think I do. I don't think it's the cell phone. It's the cell phone user that's the problem. And that's it. Ingolf Kuntz was here, but he's probably already gone because it's way late over there in Germany. And we're going to wrap it up there. I'm going to go pay my taxes, which are already in the envelope. You want to see it as proof? I just need a stamp. Yeah, I'll take care of that. You guys just go on your way about your business. Have a great weekend. If you don't make it on Saturday, you're going to miss a great day. And I will see you guys next week on Tuesday with another macro talk where I will be injuring a different part of my body live. I won't be. I promise I won't be. I'll be very careful. Take care. Stay safe and be well. Good day.